part of a multi-pronged approach too, we had Mr. Errol Griffith come and give a presentation at the very beginning of this meeting on the power of choice, which is a program in some schools, and we thought that it might be of interest for the membership to hear what the program was comprised of and to perhaps be able to make an assessment of its potential effectiveness within their school environments. We also looked at the situation at St. Leonard's, because the person at St. Leonard's is a member of both the NUPW and the BSTU, and so we are both unions collaborating to deal with that situation there. We continued our discussion on the fact that a year has passed and a grievance procedure that we have initiated against the St. Michael's School / Chief Education Officer has as yet not been heard. The fact that our member has been disadvantaged as a result of this, and we strategize on how we would go about addressing the situation to ensure that we have the meeting that we need to have the matter addressed. We also spoke to the whole issue of the SBAs, where, or rather I should say, the CXC irregularities, because it was clear, and this was even stated by the minister himself, that the matter had nothing to do with SBAs. The minister had said from early on too that the SBAs, all of the SBAs were in fact corrected and there had been no problem. So what we referred to as the fiasco of CXC's results this year, we have a number of questions in relation to the irregularities. We believe that the public is owed an explanation in relation to what has really happened that resulted in this large number of ungraded results, that there must be an acceptance of culpability wherever it lies, and a commitment to address the professional reputation of teachers who had absolutely no hand in this fiasco. The scores of ungraded subjects, not only at one school, not only in one subject, not only in one island, but this problem occurred across the region. We are saying that in relation to Barbados, the Ministry of Education needs to provide a clear and full explanation as to what has caused this proliferation of ungraded marks across the system. The Minister of Education has an obligation, and it is the hope that obvious answers will be required of him in Parliament in this regard, even though he may seek to ignore us at the level of the BSTU in our quest for such answers. The CXC needs to be held responsible where there is culpability on their part. The ministry must hold CXC responsible and protect the interests of the students sitting exams. There cannot be any perceived attempts by these two entities to work collaboratively and cooperatively, except where cooperation and collaboration will occur at the highest levels of integrity and morality. Cooperation and collaboration between these two entities cannot be inferred as anything.
This one?
Turn one, yeah, that one.
This one?
Yeah, BWU one. Should turn on.
This is on.
As anything that falls below what is of the highest possible integrity. We are asking a number of questions that we want answers from both CXC and the Ministry of Education. 2, we are asking whether there is any truth to the statements made to members of staff at a certain institution that boxes of examination scripts in at least one subject area were found at the Ministry of Education, having never been delivered to CXC. We are asking whether this had anything to do with the subsequent ungraded results received by some students in the system. We are asking whether the computer systems at the CXC are truly ready for the level of computerization of examinations and e-marking and recording of results that they are trying to enforce. We are asking whether CXC had serious problems with marks already entered by schools across the region dropping out of their system at various points in time, and whether there were not repeated requests from such schools across the region to re-enter already submitted marks. We are asking whether the dropping out of these marks affected ungraded results across the system. We are asking the CXC, how is it that at some schools and in some subjects where children received ungraded results, these students were very quickly given grade 3s. All of the children the same grade, 3. And that is the lowest possible grade recognized as a pass. We are asking CXC, how does that square against the known and varying capabilities of the students? And how is that impacting their acceptance to do A-levels and further studies in those same subject areas that might have been their most favored subjects and their best performing subjects? We are asking the CXC whether it is fair to have parents pay almost $70 to query an ungraded result when the fault was not at the students or the school. We are also wondering how, having paid almost $70 to have the script checked, the marks of the script checked, how is it possible then to get a better result when all you're doing is adding up marks and not remarking the paper? We are asking the CXC whether teachers in other islands like Jamaica and St. Lucia and Trinidad have objected en masse to the grades received by students after those students had originally been given an ungraded result. We are asking the CXC if the meager payments now being made to mark exam papers online are affecting the numbers of persons willing to mark papers across the region. Is it true that only 3 markers, for example, were available to mark principles of business across the entire region? Did marking therefore have to continue 2 weeks past the allocated time to ensure that all scripts were marked? Are persons marking, for example, CAPE examinations during the day, marking CSEC online at night in some other subject areas? Is this compromising the quality of marking of the scripts? Did the CXC receive the total number of pages of students' exam papers scanned to their system in every case? Did persons who have not taught the syllabus of the individual subject, or in some cases who have not taught at all, been used as markers for examinations? And we are asking CXC, how do you verify who is actually marking the scripts as opposed to who has registered to mark the scripts with your online marking process? Are any or all of the above, among other factors, compromising the validity, reliability, and integrity of the CXC examinations? What are both the Ministry of Education, who should have even more queries than we in the BSTU have, and the CXC looking to do to address these concerns? The Ministry of Education spends too much money with the CXC not to be paying greater interest in what happens at the level of that organization. Up until the new local registrar recently took up that position, what period of time had elapsed without the previous registrar meeting the stakeholders, having their inputs as is required on an annual basis, and making the annual reports to the CXC at the council meetings? The Ministry of Education has to do much better than this, and they have to provide answers to the children and teachers of this country. They owe both those sets of persons answers. Both those sets of persons fall victim in more ways than one to the CXC. We also dealt with the problems we are having with interviews with the boards of management at some schools where heads of department are not being allowed to either take part in the interviews or take part in the full interviewing sessions, where some persons are complaining that certain types of questions which are definitely discriminatory are being asked of them. And in some instances where the SITUSAB representatives on the boards of management are not being included in the interviewing process. We spoke about an update of the environmental concerns at Commonwealth School, where we were told that the school had had a visit from the environmental team this week, and we in the BSTU await a report from that team. The fact that the nurse was brought on last term, and the dissatisfaction of the staff at that arrangement because they felt that it gives a skewed impression in that at that time the 5th and 6th formers are not at the school, so the school population is greatly reduced, and whenever the school population is reduced, there is a reduction in the environmental concerns, and so you're not able to get a good gauge of the effects on the children. So it's a bad term to have the nurse at the school, and that was reported from the last time because the same thing was done the previous academic year. Also in the 3rd term, after the midterm, after about week 6, the school ceases to operate in the normal way because internal exams take place. Children only come to school when they have exams, and as I said, the whole population of the school shifts in terms of usage of bathroom facilities and so on. The health study has not started yet, and it was anticipated that it would have started by this time. Teachers are querying when this will happen. Did I deal with the grievance procedure? No, not yet. We also discussed at length the grievance procedure that has been denied our member for the last year. The fact that we have been waiting for a year to have this done. Our member has been denied all of his rights and privileges in that time frame. And we are putting the blame fully on the senior public officers who have the responsibility in law to perform such a process and to ensure that matters of this kind, industrial relation matters of this kind, are dealt with quickly, grievances are resolved, and so disputes do not come into being. We are saying that to this end, the permanent secretaries of both ministries are guilty under the 3rd schedule of the Public Service Act of misconduct of a serious nature. There are 3 sections of the Act. Under section, the 3rd schedule 2C, G, and P, where they are guilty, and especially G, where it states that misconduct of a serious nature means conduct that warrants the dismissal of the offending person, and that is, the person will be found to have committed an act of misconduct of a serious nature, where G states there's failure to observe any laws, orders, rules, or regulations governing the public service, and their failure to act and complete the process in the time frame spelled out very clearly in this same act amounts, as far as the BSTU is concerned, the misconduct of a serious nature. And just as laws apply to persons lower down in the pecking order in the public service, they apply to all of those in the public service who have the same employer.